Army. We wrote to each other. When he came in on leave, we would go out. And after he got out of the Army, well, I was still in high school, but managed to still see each other. He had about a 30-mile drive to come to see me, but when I finished high school, we had plans to get married and moved to Dallas. I thought we were going to live in Sherman, and he got a job. My brother told him about a place he could learn how to make seat covers, learn the seat cover trade. So he took that job right off, and government paid part of his salary, and the man that had the seat cover shop paid part of his salary, and he learned to make seat covers, and we lived in a one-bedroom, rented from his mother. One day he said, I think I could go in business for myself. I'd just like to try it. He said, there's a guy over at Texas Auto Radiator, has a trip table, a sewing machine, and a place to park 2 cars. He said, I'd like to rent that and try it. I said, go for it.
My name is Bob Bader. I was a rep since 1972 for a rep agency, and I've been a rep all my life. My first rep job was, believe it or not, across the street from Earl Owen Company. And when I started in the rep agency business, we had mostly performance lines and a few accessory things, but I went across the street and I asked for Earl. They introduced me to Earl. Earl said, Bob, can you come back maybe end of the week? They just called me and said my dad had just passed away. And I've got to fulfill this order for my customers, and then I'm going to be leaving, but you can come back on Friday and hopefully we can get reacquainted back then. Which I said was fine, and I thought, my God, this guy is so dedicated to his business that he would, put his customers before, maybe going out and consoling his, his sisters and so forth. But that's the kind of man Earl was. Earl was just, he loved his family, always loved his business.
Earl didn't have any hobbies. His only hobby was work.
Yep.
He would work all day long, whatever it took. He loaded, he unloaded, he sold, he did it all. He'd go home at night and carry every invoice that he had sold for the day, and he'd go through them one by one, checking to see what he sold that day and putting it up here so he knew what he needed to buy the next day so he didn't run out of product. Almost every night, Shirley would have a meal cooked for him. He'd sit in his recliner, go through all the invoices, and invariably, at some point, he'd fall asleep going through all the invoices to get back up and start over again tomorrow.
Hi, I'm Donald Hunt. I've recently retired from the Earl Owen Company after 45 years. From that day on, Earl was kind of more like a dad to me, because the month before I started working for Earl, my dad had passed away. And so Earl kind of fell into that position, and I just hung on everything he said. He always treated me right. He got on to me when I did things wrong. He taught me a lot. The family is the biggest thing for me. Why I stayed as long as I did, because I always felt part of the family. We'd go to the picnics and the weddings and all that for the family. I was really lucky to get this job, and I guess I'm as surprised as anybody else that I lasted 45 years.
The women of Earl Owen Company have been behind the scenes and have meant so much to the company. Joyce made sure the bills were paid, made sure we got early paid discounts. Shirley always doing the billing and taking care of all that for so many years. Joan was with the company for so many years. Yep. And did so much for the company. And Lisa has been through all the major growth in the company. We've had some tremendous growth in the past 10 years.
And then the same thing with Lisa. Lisa is more like Earl in a way of business. It's like, you could kid around with Richie and jokes and this and that. Lisa's more like business. You don't think that, Ray?
I think so too, yeah. Yeah,
like,
all business.
Yeah, all business. And that's what, if it does go longer, it's because of her. But Lisa will keep this company because that was her dad's dream, and he worked hard. And Lisa will, to me, in my eyes, Lisa will keep this company going as far as she can.
And as far as the success of the company, I think it really goes back to my mom and dad. So as you may or may not know, Earl was my father and Shirley was my mother. They worked so hard to make this company grow and make it what it is today. And every single family member that's come along after them has done the same thing. So we've all had this dedication to the company because it is a family business is not just a business for us. It's like an arm or a leg. It's part of who we are. That makes it easier to have the kind of passion to come here every day and make sure that things are running smoothly and that we continue to grow and we continue to make it a good place to work.
Roman and I have been close friends since the beginning.
Not the beginning.
Well, I might have been a little arrogant.
When he was a little teenager, he was a little arrogant. He was just, he thought that, he wasn't going to get in trouble and everything. And I said, God, dog it, man. I mean, he just come around and everything. And then one time, he already had a truck from the company and everything. He said, can you move my truck and put it inside the stall and I want you to do something. That's when they would give him a truck in there. And I said, I can't, I gotta work. I gotta do this. And he said, no, you do it. Said, okay, so I pulled it in. And Earl said, Roman, what are you doing? I said, well, Ray told me to put this truck in here. He wanted me to put something. He said, well, who gave Ray permission? I said, well, he told me to do it. He said, but Ray's not the owner. When you see Ray's name up there on the board out there in the street, he's the owner, but I'm the owner right now. So you tell him next time to come and see me. And I said, but
did you finish working on my truck?
Yeah.
You did, didn't you? He didn't make you pull it out, did he?
No, and I worked and I finished it and everything.
I always knew how much I was spending on my wife and how much I had 3 kids at the time. And what it was doing to me financially, because she was sick and couldn't take care of the kids, and I would have to get people to come in, and stay with my wife. I brought her home, had a hospital bed and so forth. And, it was costing me a fortune back then. And I even carried a bag phone. And that was one of the first bag phones ever. It cost me $1.83 a minute to talk on that thing, but I had to have that communication with whoever who was taking care of my wife at the time. So when she did pass away, and it was probably several months after that, Earl called me one day on a Saturday and said, Bob, are you busy? And I said, well, Earl, no, I can come. What do you need? And again, I'd always go over there if he ever called me to help him move something or so forth. And he said, I've got something for you. And unbeknownst to me, he had called my agency that I was working for and got a list of my customers and told them that he was taking up a fund to help my kids. I get emotional when I talk about this. He called me up and I went over there. He gave me a check for $8,000. And that was back in 1983. And that was a lot of money back then. But I mean, he thought enough of me and my kids to do that. And again, that's why, to me, that meant a lot. To know Earl, it was to love him. And to this day, I still go out and visit Earl at his grave. And Shirley was nice enough to put a bench out there.
Earl was a businessman. Earl was not a person that would make the first $1 million or $100,000 and go out there and luxury all this and show it to everybody. Earl was just a personal man that, it was just strictly business. No this and that. And I remember when we'd stay there at the old building and they played dice, and Earl would sit there with his legs crossed, have him a little drink with Henry, that's no longer here either, but that was Ray's grandpa. But he was a wonderful, wonderful man. I wish he would have been my grandpa, because he was a good old man. And I remember when him and Earl would sit there and drink a drink. He said, Earl, you ready for your drink? And he'd always wait until 5:15. He said, Henry, I would. So he'd sit down in this brown chair, and cross his legs, and Henry would bring him a drink, and they'd finish their drink, and he'd say, Wes, it's time to go. He said, okay, Earl.
Sitting in my chair and seeing what I've seen all these years has just been remarkable. It's almost like seeing a living museum, like how everything progresses. So I just feel very fortunate that we have been around for 70 years, and it's something that makes me very happy. And I'm happy that we have so many great people here who have helped make it work over the years.
I learned so much from Earl. He was so good to me in my career that, I mean, everything he talked about, I listened to. And I learned a lot because other reps were calling on him as well. And he would tell me the shortcomings of some people and the good parts of the other people. And I picked up that and really learned a lot from him. And I know he was proud of his kids and his family of people who work for him. For Earl Owen to be in business for 70 years, I really want to commend everybody in the building, his family. I can't say how much, 70 years, he would just be elated. And I will tell him the next time I have lunch with him, I promise you.
Well, going forward, the next 70 years, I don't know how good it can be, because if Roman and I are gone, the place is just going to go to crap.
It's true. It's true. It's true.
Then we got Matt.
But you know what? Let me tell you one thing.
Say one more thing, because I don't want to leave out admin, sales, warehouse. I don't want to leave anybody out, because it takes the whole team to do what we do. Make customers happy. If we don't have customers, we don't have anything. And IT. We've got more than we've ever had, and really, guys, we just appreciate everything you do for us. You guys are just doing a great job, and keep it up. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.